مرحبا، اسمي ليزي وأنا مستشارة تعليمية في الأمم المتحدة في أفغانستان. بحكي عربي، فرنسي، كوري وكمان إنجليزي. Hi, for those of you who don't speak Arabic, my name is Lizzie and I work in education for the United Nations in Afghanistan. I speak Arabic, French, Korean, and of course English. And I wanted to talk today about how learning these foreign language has really had a big effect on my life, both personally and professionally in my career. So, my interest in learning languages actually started when I was very young. I was lucky enough to spend a couple of holidays in France with my family, and I just remember watching my parents in shops and in restaurants speaking what to me was this completely different language, and being understood and hearing these responses and thinking to myself, that's really what I want to do. So you can imagine my excitement when a couple of years later I went to primary school and we started learning French. So cut to maybe 1 year later when it was suddenly me that was in the shop ordering bread or asking for my own drink in a restaurant. And I think the fact that I was able to see this very practical use of a language, so I wasn't just learning grammar or learning a list of vocabulary, but I understood that, okay, if you learn this, you can go to this country and people will speak to you and understand you. That was really a spark for me in my interest in learning foreign languages. Then when I was 11 and I went to senior school, I started learning a language called Latin. Now, Latin is what we call a dead language, which means people don't really speak it anymore. However, it is what we call a root language for English, which means that so many of the words that you will use every day come from that language. I found that really quite exciting. It meant that when I was learning vocabulary, I could see how that it was a word I almost recognized. And aside from that, the fact that we were able to use this language to read stories that had been written thousands of years before, I thought was really very cool. So I did both Latin and French all the way through school up to A-level when I was 18. And from there, I went to study Egyptology at university. Now, Egyptology required learning hieroglyphs, which is obviously a language made up of pictures. Now, I'm not going to sit here and argue that it's super helpful for your career to learn that, but I would say that the fact that I had studied French, Latin, all these languages enabled me to study something I was really interested in, and I so enjoyed my years at university because of that. So when I left university, I moved to a country called South Korea to teach. So in South Korea, all of my friends spoke English, my students spoke really good English, and my colleagues, the people I worked with, they spoke English. And it was only really when I would walk into a restaurant and look at the menu and have no idea what I was looking at that I thought, maybe I need to have a go at learning Korean. And I'm so glad I did, because I found that living in this very different foreign country was so much easier when I could understand what people were saying. I knew what I was ordering, and I was able to make Korean friends too. After 3 years in Korea, I moved to the Middle East to a country called Jordan. Now, I had studied Arabic, the language they speak there, a little bit at university, but not too much. And I always thought that Arabic sounds like such a beautiful language when you hear it spoken. And I was really interested in the culture and the politics of the Middle East. So I went back to study. I found that some of the most interesting conversations I had were with taxi drivers on my way to lessons or later on my way to work, where I would hear a completely different perspective on politics, on religion, that I probably wouldn't have been able to gain had I just been trying to speak to them in English. And I was very fortunate that my experience in education and crucially my Arabic skills led to my first job in the United Nations. So for those who don't know, the United Nations is made up of a group of countries who work in what we call development. So they try to help countries that need support to improve the lives of people living there. In my case, improving education and making sure that everyone has access to quality education. So I was very lucky to get this job, in part due to my Arabic skills, as it meant I was able to travel through different countries like Jordan, Lebanon, and even communicate with my colleagues who lived in places like Syria where I couldn't travel, but we were able to discuss our work and talk about, life in general, which I was very grateful for. So now I live in a country called Afghanistan. At the moment, my work is mainly focused, it's English that I speak when I'm in my office. However, working with people from France, from Senegal in West Africa, from the Philippines, Kenya, I find that having these extra languages has been so helpful for me personally. It might be that if I want to talk to some of my colleagues about what they're watching on Netflix, they'll be speaking in French. And I've never been more grateful for the hours that I spent learning French grammar and vocabulary at school. So if you were to ask me, would I recommend learning a language other than English, I would have to say absolutely. I have made so many friends through learning languages. It has had such a huge impact on the choices I've made in life and in my career. I think that, learning languages opens so many doors for people. Not only does it improve your memory, your problem-solving skills, it enables you to make social connections and can have a really positive impact if you're at the age where you're thinking about university or career choices. I think that when people see you've learned a foreign language, it really says something about you. It shows that you are open to a challenge and you're not afraid of a challenge, and it can only look good. So I think if you're considering, should I maybe try a language, even if it's not something you can learn at school, like you think Mandarin sounds incredible. We live in a time where these things are all possible. You can download an app, you can go online and watch some beginners on YouTube, and I don't think you will ever regret the time you spend having a go and just trying it out. So for now, I'd like to say thank you for listening. 오늘은 들어주셔서 감사합니다. Goodbye.